right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a look at a video of a 3D printout layout of what time and what we do know to be facts in the case. So let's take a look at this video real quick. Well, it looks like there's somebody outside there shoveling the sidewalk with it. What appears to be a cigarette or cigar. Interesting. All right, let's get to this video. Yo, Miss Debbie Fox, how you doing? We're also going to show a little bit of police, uh, not purposely probably, but touching a lot of stuff in the house and running their hands up and down the handrails as they're going up and down the stairs. But let's take a look at this layout. 3D printing of time stamp and what occurred.
In this illustration, we're going to start at 3:30 a.m. At this time, everyone is asleep except for Xana. Looking inside the home, we can see where everybody was. Starting at the 3rd floor, we can see where Maddie and Kaylee were sleeping. Maddie was sleeping on the edge of the bed, while Kaylee was sleeping near the wall. As we go out and drop down to the 2nd floor, we can see Dylan's room directly under Maddie's room. Continuing across the living room onto the other side of the home, we see Xana's room. She's sitting in bed scrolling on her phone while Ethan sleeps next to her. Minutes ago, she had just finished ordering DoorDash and has all the lights on while she waits. The last roommate to mention is Beth, whose room is on the 1st floor, directly below the living room. As most of them all sleep, Kohberger pulls into the neighborhood for the first time this night at precisely 3:30 a.m. We know this due to a home security camera that captures the intersection and records the coming and going of anybody that enters that neighborhood. As we continue, Kohberger drives past the home and notices that all the lights on the 2nd floor are still on. He drives on and loops around the apartment complex building. Because of the home security timestamp, we're able to know how long it took to drive this path. On his first pass, it took him 2 minutes and 38 seconds, and this is him leaving on the first pass. Now let's look at his next 2 passes and record the times. This is pass 2 of him entering and leaving. And now this is pass 3 of him entering and leaving. When we do the math, we can see how long he took each pass. The last 2 passes were normal without any stopping, but on his first pass, he took an additional 42 seconds to creep by the house or even stop for a time to stare into the windows with the lights on. All this information has been coming from camera A, but there is a second camera located behind the apartment complex building, and we're going to call that camera B located here. This camera allows
Okay, so pretty much they have him on camera numerous times. First pass, second pass, third pass. Every time he turned on that street, they have his vehicle on camera. And you can tell when he does the murders because he goes in that area and you don't see his car a minute, 2 minutes, 2 minutes and 53 seconds later. You know how the other passes were going. It's much longer. So that's how they know that at that time of the murders between 4:30, he's in there somewhere because they could see on the camera there's only one car driving around there except for the DoorDash person. And he's making passes, dry runs, if you want to call them dry runs, until he does the murders, scoping the place out. Yeah, that's fact. she's got that right with this whole setup that this little lady, her channel, she's right about that. That's fact.
allows us to see how long it took to get from point A to point B, and between the 3 security cameras' data, it took between 35 and 37 seconds. What this means is you didn't stop or park somewhere or go into a different direction. He simply drove straight from point A to point B at regular speed. These times help us understand the DoorDash delivery window. According to court documents, 2 times are noted. One is 3:59 a.m. and the other is 4 a.m. Bringing back our passage chart, we can see that the DoorDash time of 3:59 happens after Kohberger has left the neighborhood and before he returns for his last pass at 4:04. It is possible that the DoorDash driver saw Kohberger as he was parking his car, because a timestamp of 3:59 could be reflected when he took the photo of the food at the front door instead of the time he arrived. So it is possible he witnessed Kohberger staring at the windows as he drove by. Continuing, as the driver leaves, Xena turns off all the lights, sits on her bed, and scrolls on her phone as she eats her food. A few minutes later, Kohberger enters the neighborhood for the last time. But this time, as he drives by the home, he sees all the lights are off. At the camera B location, he turns around to head back to the residence as shown in this video. When he returns to the front of the house, he does something unusual, so much so that it's noted in the arrest affidavit. On page 6, it states, when the suspect vehicle 1 is in front of Kings Road residence, it appeared to unsuccessfully attempt to park or turn around in the road.
Yes, Miss Debbie Fox. I believe that's what we were led to believe was the DoorDash lady was a lady. 3:59 to 4 o'clock, she drops off food there. As she's leaving, she says she's seen his car. Now we don't know if that's true, but that's what she was saying, right? That she thought she seen his car parking or something like that.
It goes on to say that he continued onto the intersection where he did a 3-point turn. This 3-point turn was captured on camera A, which has a timestamp of 4:06. He appears to be calm and not.
All right, so at 4:06, that's his car. Right after DoorDash leaves, they shut all the lights off because they're going to bed, whatever. They might still be hanging out with each other, but in their bedrooms, all the lights off, maybe a TV going, a computer, light dim, lighting, whatever.
Overly anxious with his driving. As he heads back in the direction of the residence, he takes one last look at the windows to make sure all the lights are off. As he begins to drive around the end of the apartment complex, camera B records the time of 4:07. Fast forwarding a little bit, Kohberger drives to the back parking lot away from other residences.
All right, this is key stuff in the case. So at 4:07, that back camera in the apartment complex picks him up coming in. And it don't record him again till 15 minutes later.
As he begins to drive around the end of the apartment complex, camera B records the time of 4:07. Fast forwarding a little bit, Kohberger drives to the back parking lot away from other residences. He takes a few minutes looking around and sees that nobody's out and that all is quiet. He eventually grabs his things, gets out of the vehicle, and begins walking to the back of the home. At approximately 4:13 a.m., he begins to make entry. As he steps in, he takes a minute to make sure everything is quiet and that nobody is truly up. He walks to the entrance of the living room and looks around. He continues to be cautious and stands there listening. Feeling confident, he continues upstairs. As he makes his way to Maddie's room, the time is about 4:14. Meanwhile, 2 minutes later, Xana takes a break from TikTok and walks into the kitchen. Evidence shows her activity on the app stopped at 4:16. As she enters the kitchen, she's a little shocked to see the sliding glass door wide open. And at the same time, she hears a serious commotion going on upstairs. Hey everyone, I don't usually ask. A source revealed that Santa's phone recorded steps and elevation change, which is how it's known she went to the kitchen and the third floor. When she walked up to
All right, so this seems more plausible to me of what happened, and that would explain why we don't see his car coming out of there until like 15 minutes later, 10 minutes later. Now, could all that have been done that fast with one guy? Yeah, if they were just going in to do certain stuff and that's it and get out of there, yeah, this makes sense. What ain't making sense is why no one called the police for 8 hours. That's what's not making sense.
Maddie's doorway, she interrupted Koberger, who had just finished an intense battle with Kaylee, who fought back violently. After a second or two, he notices her, and then she turns away. Being dark, Xana didn't realize what she was seeing other than a shadowy figure. Out of fear, she quickly leaves. A single
So Xana sees him upstairs in the girl's room, and he sees her, and she turns around and starts walking away. Now, she's probably the one that said there's somebody in the house, screaming as she's running back to Ethan or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it kind of puts things into, reality.
source, unaffiliated with the media, claims Koberger injured Xana on the third floor hallway, leaving evidence of blood there. But this single source of information has not been validated by any more sources. Continuing, Koberger, without thinking, pursues her all the way to her room, not realizing he had dropped the sheath of his knife. When he gets to the room, he attacks Xana, and the time is precisely 4:17:30. We know this because of camera A captured the sound of screaming and the thud. After attacking
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard it for yourself. The camera outside at a neighbor's house picked up them screaming on the inside of the house down the either next door or across the street. So for these people that are claiming inside, they were inside the house and couldn't tell what was going on, didn't know, they had to have known, because if a camera on a door, a house 2 houses down, is picking it up on camera, then surely everyone in that house knew exactly what was going on. I would think. I would think.
Xana, Kohberger focuses his attention on Ethan and attacks him while he slept. Afterwards, Kohberger must have sat down in a chair according to a report, which found blood smears on Xana's chair, perhaps from the exhaustion of what he had just done. This source also says that blood from the 2 roommates upstairs were found in Xana's room, showing that it was one person moving from one room to another. Kohberger sitting down was for less than 30 seconds. As he gets up to leave, Dylan, hearing the commotion from Xana's room, gets up out of bed and goes to her door to look out into the hallway. She freezes and sees Kohberger as he walks by and exits through the kitchen. She immediately closes and locks her door and retreats to her bed. Within 20 seconds of the encounter, she's calling and texting her roommates, but no one is responding. It takes Kohberger a minute and a half to get to his vehicle after the encounter with Dylan. But once in his car, he flees the scene at a high rate of speed and exits the neighborhood at 4:20.
Now that's fact. How do we know that? Because he goes in at a certain time, his car is seen going into the apartment complex, and it don't leave, and it's spotted once again on camera at a certain time. So we know he was in there, or he was. A lot of people are saying it wasn't him. It was, well, whatever. He must have knew something was going on, whether he was a lookout. But he sits there. It's a coincidence. He just parked there as the murders were occurring and don't leave 20 minutes later or 15 minutes later or whatever. Now, does this add up? Yeah, this adds up with somebody that either he hates, he's a serial killer, uh, a hitman, whatever. He went in, he got the job done, and he got out of there. This whole thing, oh, they painted this stuff on the wall. Well, then, you know what? Someone else did that, folks, not him, because he was in and out, and the cameras show it. He went into that area, he parked his car. Now, whether he was there lookout or just happened to be there, he don't leave until 20, 15 minutes, 20 minutes later. And all this occurs. I don't know. That's fishy. That's fishy. If that be, he was just a lookout. He was there, whatever. I don't know. Let's see. Miss Debbie Fox says that's where she said he went out of the sliding glass door. Yeah. Yeah, and when the police, we know that because when the police show up there 8 hours later, the sliding glass door in the back is open. Right now, they're going off 2 survivors' words. Now, whether they're telling the truth or not, do we know he went in? That well, I don't know. We don't know. Probably. Let's see. I said the factual roommate downstairs had those pictures of her on her wall. Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah, a bunch of people's faces. I've seen that video too, Deb, where she was in the eyebrows or faces or something. But I don't know. No, this seems. This is what it should have been. Now, someone in that car left that area. Now, whether it was Brian Kohberger, I don't know. But all this stuff extra that we're hearing about, he was castrated or beheaded or carving on the legs, writing on the walls. But, well, he only had so much time. I don't know if doing all that, if he had enough time, I don't know. Yeah, that was a video I showed earlier today, Deb. But we don't know. we'd have to really look at the autopsy and see if there was markings, carvings, words on the body, or a decapitation or anything like that.
Dylan continues trying to reach someone in the house. And after 3 minutes of trying, Bethany wakes up in response to the calls. They converse for 3 minutes, and then Beth convinces Dylan to come downstairs. The time is now 4:26 a.m. Cautiously, Dylan walks into the hallway and through the living room. As she approaches the staircase, she can see into Xana's room and sees her laying on the floor. She then runs quickly downstairs to Beth's room, where they lock the door and for several hours continuously try contacting the other roommates. Back to when Kohberger left the neighborhood.
So they all go in the basement room and they sit there for 7 hours, 8 hours. That is just, I don't know, that's wild to me. Would you agree on that, Miss Fox?
He drove a particular route that would exit onto a road that leads straight to Washington state line. And about that same time that Dylan runs to Beth's room, Kohberger is entering Washington state. This is all part of Kohberger's pre-planning, including finding a place to stop and get rid of any evidence. This place here fits that planning. This area here, pointed out by the arrow, is a little group of trees with a small area that you can park a car on. This is what it looks like from the road. At 4:30 in the morning, while changing clothes and getting cleaned up at this location, one could feel completely safe while being able to see the headlights of a car coming from miles away. As this pivots around, you can see how this is out in the middle of nowhere, and a pre-dug hole near some of these trees would hide forever any evidence that Kohberger was trying to get rid of. It's important to remember that Kohberger was studying criminal behavior and the legal system. This would have motivated him to plan things to the smallest of details, like plastic on the seats to conceal DNA, or crossing state lines because the jurisdiction of one area would take hours to get assistance from the other. He's also smart enough to know that this 10-minute stop would likely never be on the radar of the authorities, especially after he crosses back into Idaho and then turns his phone back on. Let's pick back up where we left off at his 10-minute stop. He continues on with his plan, knowing that he's completely cleaned up and that there's no evidence to tie him to any of the crime if he were pulled over at this point. After getting on Highway 95 and turning south, he turns his phone back on at 4:48 a.m. This section of Kohberger's travels comes from his cell phone data extraction. Let's orientate ourselves onto this map and get a better understanding of the timing. Kohberger leaves Kings Road residence at 4:21 a.m. Just 8 minutes later, he arrives at his stopping point where he gets rid of all the evidence. After the cleanup, he then drives back into Idaho and turns his phone back on, which occurs near a town named Blaine. This was referenced in the arrest affidavit along with the next town called Uniontown. The last place to reference is where he's seen on cameras near his apartment at 5:25 a.m. Using Google tools, we can get accurate timing information. This entire route took 54 minutes. If we add the 10 minutes stopping time to that, it would be an hour and 4 minutes. Now, if you add that hour and 4 minutes to the time he left King Road, it would equal 5:25 a.m., the same time the camera captures him on the cameras near Washington State University. The last thing to compare is this part of the route, which has a reported time of 38 minutes to drive without any stopping. Bringing back the time record and adding in the second leg information of 38 minutes, we can now add that time to when he turned his phone back on, which was at 4:48 a.m. After adding the 38 minutes to that time, it gives us 5:26 a.m., nearly the same time that was captured on the campus cameras.
Oh, wow. Yeah. If that's what happened, that does make sense. Now, we're also going to look how when police showed up, the mess that they showed up on, they did do something right. They put their gloves on and everything. But as you can tell in some of the footage of them going up and down the stairs and everything, their hands are touching the railing. So that also would transfer or smudge any blood splatter casting, uh, being that they weren't really sure what happened visibly. They might not have been able to see the blood, but let's take a look at that. Let me put this in chat. Let me also put it in the description. And away we go. Now, what are we looking at? Well, we are looking at police officers that are making their way into the house. And what they did was put on their gloves before they went in, right? They're clearing the house right now because they don't know if the murderer is still in the house. They don't even know at this point. They don't even know there's two bodies upstairs. They know about the two bodies on the second floor, but they don't know about the bodies on the third floor. So they're clearing the house, going through stuff. Let's watch a little bit of this.
Police department, you're in here now yourself. Russell Police Department.
Clear here. Going up.
There.
Please far right.
Now, as you can see, as the police officer is making his way upstairs and stuff, he's holding the railing. You know, and I would be too, probably going up the stairs or whatever. But at this point, he probably don't see no evident blood there, so he don't even know about these two people that are upstairs yet, because they haven't even scoped the house out. The police officer that showed up on the call first goes in the house and sees two people on the second floor dead, and radios back. We got a 930 or whatever it was, a 970 something or whatever. So he hasn't, and he leaves the house. He walks out of the house and tells the boyfriend, Jack, or whoever was there, to get out of the house. And the police officer leaves the house. No, they're clearing the house now to make sure the killer still ain't inside the house. They don't even know about the girls upstairs yet.
We're on third floor, going up. We got another. Russell Police Department.
Aha. If you listen to what the police officer said, is what does he say? We got another one. We got another one, meaning more dead bodies.
Dude.
House clear?
We're clear. Let me just secure the outside first.
Go
So
to the front door. It'll be,
there's a back entry. I was going to start taping it all off.
Brian's taking the outside off.
Okay.
Where's the,
There's two right here.
All right. So now you see the officers, they're walking up there. They're holding the railings. They're touching stuff. Is it possible they contaminated maybe a blood mark with another blood? It's possible. At least they were using their heads and went in there with their gloves on. And probably exactly how the killer did, I would guess. Now, what is interesting, the police are wearing black gloves. And what they found at Kohlberger's apartment was the same exact gloves. That was interesting. So we know this much. They go in the house, they're called there for an unresponsive person passed out from possibly drinking. And they don't know what the deal is, but no one is answering their phones. They can't get in the bedrooms. They call the police. That's what the police are responding to. They have no idea that there's been a quadruple murder. Now, what should have happened? Well, depending on the police department, once the one officer found out that there was 2 people dead in the house, possibly murdered, whatever, possibly murder, suicide, whatever, it should have been locked down right there, and a special division would come in, and they would wait for them to come in, and they would photograph forensic evidence people. They would come in, look at everything. But what the police were doing was clearing the house because they didn't know if the killer was still there or if there was more people dead. And as they get to the top of the stairs on the 3rd floor, you hear the officers say, "We got another one here." And this is when the madness really begins. So being that the police had no idea what was going on till just now, till they just get there and find out, are they touching things, maybe contaminating it? Maybe they don't even know it because by eye, they can't see the speckle of blood or whatever. It's possible. I'm not going to say it's not possible. Their shoes going in and out of there. Now, a real professional, real professional should be like what we see on TV. There's a murder called in, everything's locked down. No one goes in except for the next team to investigate a murder scene. So is the house contaminated? Being they had 8 hours and other people were in the house, I would say it's probably more contaminated from the people that came there before the police. Right? Once that cop seen 2 dead bodies, he told everyone get out of the house, and he put his gloves on, and he made a call that it's murder. Debbie says they didn't have shoe covers on. That's true, Deb. That's true.
I already got it. I got in there. Check with the prints.
All right. Another thing I want to point out is when the police come walking through the kitchen, uh, you don't see no blood, right? You remember that video? I even did a video on that when it first came out. Uh, People were saying, "Oh my God, there was blood dripping from the cabinets," but actually that was aluminol. That photo was taken from outside, looking in through the window where they think they found handprints, right? But that photo was taken after forensic guys were in the house and sprayed aluminol, and it was running down the cabinets. That's the photo that we seen. And everyone was like, "Oh my God, it was horrible. So much blood. It leaked through everything, the ceilings and all over the cabinets and everything." So we know that when police show up there, there's no blood at all on the cabinets that we can see with a naked eye. They said no such much isn't ridiculous. Yeah, Debbie Fox says they said so much it's ridiculous. There were many people, DNA in that house. Yep. Party house. And the proof is in the video. When the police show up there, there's beer cans all over and cases of beer and alcohol and everything.
There's nothing else out there. Do you want me to go back there and start IDing
Yes, please.
people? Okay, I'm going to start IDing all of them.
All right, so we seen most of this of him interrogating the people, asking what happened and everything. So, do I think the police contaminated the crime scene? I don't think so. Not as much as the people that were there before the police. And there must not have been. It's just I don't know. I don't know. I would have to see everything they had on it, camera rise. But we know this much. The door was open when they said in the police call that no one could get in the rooms and nobody was answering their phones. So someone made entry into that room. Now, it could have been Jack or somebody that got there and broke in. But then we would be hearing in the reports that there was forced entry into the rooms. And we haven't heard anything on that. We've heard nothing on forced entry anywhere. So, very interesting. Miss Fox, is there anything you want to say? I think we're going to end this video until we find more info on it. Yes, Debbie, you're right. Their friends were there. They called everybody but the police. And that house right there, that blue house, I think is the house that picked up them screaming. So how does the house that far away picking up screams of there's somebody in the house or whatever, and you're in that house where this is all occurring and you can't hear anything? I don't know. Kind of fishy. You know, they all seen this before the cops came. Yeah. Yeah, and even when the cops got there, they didn't say, "Well, they're dead." It's a crime scene. Someone killed them. The police probably would have entered differently then. They probably would have had sent one guy in to see what's going on. He would have came out and they would have locked the whole thing down until another division got there to investigate a murder scene of quadruple people. They never said nothing. All right. I think we're going to end this video here. We'll be back maybe with some photos that have been released. Possibly, maybe. I don't know. I want to thank once again Debbie Fox for showing up. And yeah, too much time go. He's out of there. Koberger's car seen leaving that area at 4:20, 4:21. And from 4:21, not until 11:30, 10:30, 11, the police are not called. That much time goes by. 8 hours. They might have lived. I mean, you don't know if the police were called right away. They might have. One of them might have survived. I don't know. The lady saying no. All their wounds were deadly and they would have died within minutes. So, instantly. So, but them not calling nobody and calling their friends and everybody else. And it just is weird. And then their friends showing up and them not calling the police until a certain time is just unbelievable. No, it's unreal. But if Kohlberger would have had that sheath on his belt, would we be here today? And that's the question we need to, did he kill before and he was getting sloppy? And is it any coincidence wherever Mr. Kohlberger washed his car, no matter what state it was or what town, nearby there was a body found? I don't know. Coincidence? I don't know. Maybe he did wash his car a lot. I don't know. He was a forensic. He was going to school for this stuff. So knowing what he knew, would he have gone in that house not dressed properly? Probably not. Probably not. If he was that good, he would have wore booties that are given to the police. He might have had booties on. Police have them. Detectives have them in their cars. They put them on before they go into a crime scene so they don't leave footprints of a shoe. Right? They'll see a smudge mark of a foot, and the investigators know that's a detective's foot. He's got a booty on. So Kohlberger would have had access to all this stuff, being he was going to a college, working in a lab, whatever, learning this stuff. He might have had access to it all, and was stealing it from the college, maybe. You know, if he was 100% as good as what he thought or whatever, um, he would have went in there with booties on. Then they would have had no footprints. He would have went in there with gloves. They would have had no fingerprints. And he wouldn't have forgot the sheath. And that is signs of a killer that's getting sloppy. And this might have been the case that got him. This might have been the one where he just made too many mistakes. He knew as soon as he left that place, he didn't see the sheath evidence left behind. Now they know what kind of knife it was. You know? And if he was such a stickler like they say he was, and so good at this stuff, he would have known he was caught already. If he was any good, he would have looked around and seen on the houses had ringtone. They had cameras. And if he was going to go in, he would have had to walk in. Because him going in that area, he would have known there was cameras. If he was such a professional, like he said, he was getting sloppy. All signs of a killer that was so confident that might have gotten away with it numerous times, and now he was so cocky. He left too much evidence behind, and he finally caught himself. Maybe. Not going to say it's not possible. But if he was such a stickler, like they say, well, then he would have known there was cameras, residential cameras and stuff, where his vehicle would have been picked up. Therefore, he would have walked in. But he didn't. He was getting sloppy, competent, crazy, whatever. And he got caught. So, how many? I don't know. Some say this was the only murders he ever committed. I say, probably not. Probably not. As Debbie said in the last video, you just don't wake up and this is your first kill and you have no idea who's in the house, how many people, and you kill 4 people, and you're calm and cool. You sit down, relax for 30 seconds, and no, this is someone that was competent. He wasn't he wasn't worried about anything but doing what he did, and that's what he did. And he left. Now all this other stuff these people are saying, well, it's very well when you got 8 hours. They could have made it look like something else. Yeah. Could they have done something, made it look worse to the bodies? Yeah. 8 hours went by. You know, that's why maybe some of this stuff ain't adding up to the police. They know Brian Kohlberger went into that house at a certain time and came out a certain time, and he was gone. So much that all this time that went, could he have done the things that they're saying within that time, writing on carvings on bodies and everything? I don't know. That don't sound like a professional. That sounds like somebody that had some kind of a love triangle, or hated people or whatever. But even then, to stick around and do that stuff when you don't know who's on their way or what, it don't add up. You got to be competent. And he made a mistake. I hope they really investigate him and see if he's connected to them other murders that were out there, 2 or 3 of them, where these people died the same way. 2 survived, I think, or 1 survived, I think. Same thing, middle of the night, woken up to being stabbed. Stuff missing from the house. Well, maybe. No, that's why they make that big money. That's their job. We're just couch potato investigators. Debbie Fox says, I didn't say that. We never do. I think that was his first time, and he got careless. I don't know, to go in and do that much damage your first kill, first time, and then sit around and write in blood and everything and do all this stuff that they're saying. That don't look like somebody had done this first kill or something like that. I don't know. I could be wrong. But for someone to do that their first time, yeah, he's completely crazy. There's no doubt about it. Psychomatic. They're lucky they got him, because he probably would have kept killing and killing until he got caught. You know why? Because he would have got away with this. And he would have been like, I just killed 4 people, walked out of there, did this calmly. And that alone, the power that would have put in his head, he would have killed again. He definitely would have killed again, because he would have been like, I got away with this. I'm better than them. And we could have been dealing with another Zodiac, another serial killer. If they didn't get, if this was his first kill and they got him, they're lucky. They got definitely a serial killer off of the streets. A potential serial killer. Now, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first. If this was his first kill, they got lucky getting him, because I guarantee you, if he, in his head, in his twisted mind, he was better than the authorities, and he would have killed again. No, I want to thank all of you. I'm under spiritual attack tonight. I want to thank all of you for being here. God bless everybody. Be safe. We'll be back with more info. Miss Fox, is there anything you want to say? Debbie Fox says, I never heard of that. I believe that. Miss Fox also said, who said that? And she also said, I think this was his first time, and he got careless. Well, if this was his first time and they got him, thank God. Because if he would have got away with this, you can guarantee your bottom dollar that he would have done it again. Because that's how sick he was. In his mind, if he would have got away with this, he would have been on cloud 9. He is better than the best of the best investigators and everybody else. And I still believe he thinks that. Miss Fox, watch my video I did earlier. You'll see that they were talking about writing in the blood on one of the cabinets or something, or the desk or whatever. Like somebody took a finger and wrote in blood or whatever, or the blood was transferred on top of the writing. Yeah. And then you also seen the video of them saying that there was a smiley face and blood or something, or eyes, eyebrows or something on the floor. No, there's a lot of things out there, but all that stuff would have took time. Did he do this and sit around and if it's true that there was all this stuff, that takes time. And how did he not know if somebody was right around the corner, police right down the street? There actually was police officers a block over as the murders were occurred. You remember they stopped them 4 or 5 dudes that were walking through the field? That was about around the time or right before the murders. Now, how did Kohlberger or whoever did this not know that police were right around the corner? Possibly someone heard it and called. That's just taking more time to get caught. I think what we just watched, this scenario, is probably right. He did a couple dry runs, waited for the lights to be turned off, made his move. Within 10, 15 minutes, he's out of there. The video shows that. And that was it. He was on his way. You'd be stupid to stick around and do any Manson shit and write on walls and carve. That's just taking, that's risking. That's too much of a risk. Not unless you can do all that stuff within the time that he had. And even then, you would have to be comfortable enough knowing that nobody else is in the house or going to walk up on you, or someone didn't call police. Very crazy, if you ask me. I think the first scenario is right. He went in, went out, and that was it. If any other of this stuff comes out, well, this was done. Well, did he do it, or was he already gone? Did someone else that showed up there to help or whatever do something? Did somebody else? But we don't know. Will we ever know? I don't know. Hopefully we do. They got lucky. If this was his first kill and he is the true only one that did this, they got lucky. They got a potential serial killer, madman, off of the streets. Kudos to them. And hopefully they continue their operation and investigation and check any other crimes in any other states with any other MOs. Was he in any of these areas where these dead bodies were? Hopefully they did their investigation, right? Let me see what Miss Fox is saying. He even sat down for a rest in the chair. That's right. After he got rid of Ethan and Xana. Yeah. And then he walked out. How do they know that he killed the girls upstairs first? Because their blood was found in the bedroom mixed with Xana's and Ethan's. So the girls upstairs were the first ones. And on his way out, the other two that seen him had to go. My opinion. And he did that. And then he knew he spent too much time in the house. He had to get out of there. And that's why he let that other girl that walked right past her, she said. Looked her right in the eyes and kept walking. He knew he spent too much time there. He had to get out of there. His face was covered. His whole body was covered in black. He was out of there. Whether he's seen her or not, she's seen him. But he didn't care. Job was done. And he was out of there. Unless he had more time. But I think he was so crazy that in his mind, he only had so much time. And the more time he spent in that house was a chance someone seen him recognized his voice, heard him, whatever, and he would be caught. Little did he know, he got in, got out, but he forgot the sheath. And if he only would have had that sheath on his belt as it was designed to, we probably wouldn't be here today. Miss Fox, I think I'm going to end this. I've had too much. I'm too upset over this kid. But you're right. He did sit down there and relax, and then got up and walked out. Now, all the other stuff I can believe is a lie. But what isn't a lie is Brian Kohlberger drove his car in there 3-4 times. The last time he parked, his car wasn't seen again on camera until 15-20 minutes later, not even. And he was gone. And that's facts. Is that enough time to do this? Sure. One man? Oh, yeah. Yeah, if he parked close behind the building like that. Yeah. Yeah. Very possible for one dude to do this. Somebody very competent. Yeah, that's why I think he killed before. Right? He was very calm. And he manipulated them as he was killing them. That he was there to help them. And he wasn't. He was there to do something very evil. Now, Miss Fox said something about his sister. That his sister did it. And he got the blame for it. I don't know. She'd have to be just as crazy. She would have to be just as crazy. Wouldn't you agree, Miss Fox? I would say so. No, we're going to end this video. I'll be back with more info later. Miss Fox, I want to thank you for stopping in today. We don't know. We'll get to the bottom of it here on Johnny Kramer's Music Movie Extravaganza, where we do crime, music, movies, DIYs, outdoor videos, weather, you name it. We try and cover it all. Now, you folks have a great day. Now, is it possible Mr. Brian Kohlberger didn't do this? Yeah, it's possible. But you have to explain, why was he there? How many times that night? And why did he pause the last time he was there for 15-20 minutes? Did he know something no one else did? Was he lookout? Was he there to make sure the job got done? We don't know. We'll be back with more information. Ms. Fox, thank you for stopping in tonight. Yeah, both his tell us. Yeah, maybe you might be right, Ms. Fox. Now you have a good night, little lady. It is chilly out tonight. Woo! Cold. Winds are blowing like crazy out there. Stay warm. We'll be back with more intel. Have a good night.